Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you for a moment, because this right here is something a lot of men don't even realize is happening to them. A man can fall in love without ever announcing it, without ever planning it, without even admitting it to himself. And the shocking part is this: everybody else can see it before he can. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that most people don't understand about love, especially when it comes to a man. Love does not start with words. It doesn't start with, "I miss you." It doesn't start with, "I love you." And it definitely doesn't start with promises. Love starts with actions long before the mouth ever catches up to the heart. That's the part that shocks people, because we've been trained to listen more than we watch. But if you really want to know when a man is falling in love, you don't listen to what he says, you watch what he does. A man can say anything. He can talk all day long. Words cost him nothing. But actions require effort, sacrifice, and intention. When a man is not emotionally invested, his actions are convenient. He shows up when it fits his schedule. He calls when he's bored. And he disappears when something better comes along. But when love starts creeping in, his behavior changes in ways even he doesn't recognize. He starts doing things that don't benefit him directly. And that's when you know something real is happening. You'll see it in how he makes time. Not leftover time, not spare time, but intentional time. He begins adjusting his routine without announcing it. He doesn't say, "I'm changing for you," but suddenly he's available when he used to be busy. Suddenly he's checking in without being asked. Suddenly he's present. That's not coincidence. That's his heart taking control before his mind has a chance to argue. Another powerful action is consistency. When a man is fallen in love, his behavior becomes predictable in the best way. He doesn't play hot and cold. He doesn't disappear and reappear with excuses. He shows up the same way on Monday as he does on Friday. Consistency is emotional investment in motion. Men don't stay consistent with something they don't care about, because consistency requires discipline, and discipline is fueled by purpose. You'll also notice that he starts paying attention to details, not big flashy gestures, but small things. He remembers how you take your coffee. He remembers what makes you uncomfortable. He remembers stories you told him weeks ago. That's not him trying to impress you. That's his mind prioritizing you without permission. When love enters, your presence starts living in his thoughts even when you're not around. Here's another action people overlook. A man falling in love becomes responsive. He doesn't ignore calls. He doesn't leave messages unanswered for no reason. He understands that silence can create distance, and distance threatens connection. So he responds not because he's obligated, but because staying connected matters to him now. And let me say this clearly. When a man's actions begin to protect your emotional well-being, love is already involved. He becomes mindful of how his words affect you. He thinks before he speaks. He avoids hurting you, not because he's afraid of losing access, but because your feelings now hold value. Men do not protect what they do not care about. You also see it in effort. Effort shows up when things are inconvenient, when he's tired but still checks in, when he's stressed but still makes room for you, when life is heavy and he still chooses to show up. That's not habit. That's attachment forming. A man may not say he's falling in love because admitting it feels like losing control, but his actions will expose him every time. Actions don't lie. They reveal priorities. They reveal intentions. They reveal where the heart has already gone. So if you're watching a man move differently, show up differently, and treat you differently without labeling it, understand this truth. His actions are speaking the language his mouth hasn't learned yet. Love doesn't announce itself at first. It proves itself quietly, one action at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break this down in a way that makes sense, because when a man starts falling in love, one of the first things that changes is his priorities, even though he will swear up and down that nothing has changed. A man might tell you he's the same, that he's focused on his life, his work, his goals. But if you watch closely, you'll see that something has already shifted. Love doesn't ask permission to rearrange a man's life. It just does it. When a man is not emotionally attached, everything in his world comes first. His schedule is built around what he wants, when he wants it, and how it benefits him. You get whatever space is left over. But when love starts to grow, you move from the background to the front of his mind. He may not announce it, but his behavior will. Suddenly he's considering you before making plans. Suddenly he's checking if something works for you. Suddenly he's aware that his decisions affect someone else, and that awareness is powerful. You'll notice it when he starts sacrificing comfort. A man who isn't in love avoids inconvenience. He won't drive far, wait long, or adjust much. But a man who is falling in love will do things that slightly disrupt his routine without complaining. He'll stay up later. He'll wake up earlier. He'll rearrange things he once guarded tightly. That's not him being nice. That's him being emotionally invested. Another sign is how he spends his mental energy. Even when he's busy, you cross his mind. He thinks about how your day went. He wonders if you're okay. He imagines how you'd react to something funny or interesting. That's dangerous territory for a man who said he wasn't looking for love. Because once someone starts living in your thoughts, they've already claimed space in your heart. Watch how he starts planning. A man who is only casually involved thinks in the moment. A man who is falling in love starts thinking ahead without realizing it. He uses words like next time, or we should, and one day. He's not making promises, but he's placing you in his future mentally. Men don't place temporary people into long-term thoughts. Another shift happens in how he handles conflict. When love isn't involved, disagreement feels like a threat, and his response is distance or defensiveness. But when he's fallen in love, he wants resolution. He doesn't like tension with you. He wants peace, not because he's weak, but because your connection now matters more than his ego. That desire to fix instead of flee is a major emotional shift. You'll also see it in how he protects time with you. He guards it. He doesn't casually cancel. He doesn't treat plans like suggestions. Even if something comes up, he explains. That's priority. Men protect what they value, and they make excuses for what they don't. Another overlooked sign is how he starts including you in decisions that used to be personal. He asks your opinion. He values your perspective, not because he can't decide for himself, but because your voice now matters to him. That's intimacy forming quietly. Even his ambition can shift. He starts thinking about stability, growth, and responsibility in a deeper way. Not because you demanded it, but because love awakens a desire to be better, to be more reliable, to build something that lasts. A man in love wants to feel worthy of the woman he cares about. He may never say, I'm changing my priorities, but the evidence will be there. His time, energy, effort, and attention start flowing in your direction naturally. That's how you know. When love enters a man's life, it doesn't ask him to give things up. It simply changes what matters most. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something powerful about men and love that most people never talk about. When a man is falling in love, the very first place it shows up is not in romance, not in gifts, not in big gestures, but in emotional safety. A man doesn't open his heart easily. He's been taught to be strong, to keep it together, to carry the weight without letting it show. So when he starts feeling safe enough to let someone see behind the curtain, that's not accidental. That's love quietly taking shape. You see, a man can be attracted to many people, but he only feels emotionally safe with very few. Attraction makes him want you. Emotional safety makes him trust you. And trust is the doorway to love. When a man begins sharing thoughts he normally keeps locked away, when he talks about pressure, fear, doubts, or past disappointments, he's not just talking. He's placing something fragile in your hands. Men don't do that unless their heart is already involved. Watch how he talks to you when life is heavy. A man who isn't emotionally attached keeps things surface level. He jokes, he deflects, he changes the subject. But a man falling in love starts letting you see him unfiltered. He admits when he's tired. He admits when he's stressed. He admits when he doesn't have all the answers. That vulnerability isn't weakness. That's emotional connection deepening. Another powerful sign is how comfortable silence becomes. When a man feels emotionally safe, he doesn't feel the need to perform. He can sit in quiet moments without feeling awkward. He doesn't rush to fill every space with noise. Silence becomes peaceful instead of uncomfortable, and that kind of comfort only exists where trust lives. You also notice that he seeks your understanding, not your approval. He explains himself, not to impress you, but to be understood by you. He wants you to know why he feels the way he feels. that desire to be known as intimacy at its core. Men don't crave that level of understanding from someone they see as temporary. When a man is falling in love, he also starts responding emotionally rather than defensively. Instead of shutting down during serious conversations, he stays present. Instead of avoiding topics, he engages. He may not have perfect words, but he tries. Effort in emotional communication is a sign his heart is already invested. Pay attention to how he reacts when you're vulnerable. If he listens without judgment, if he stays instead of pulling away, if he tries to support rather than fix, that's emotional safety in action. Men who don't care emotionally will avoid depth. Men who are falling in love lean into it, even when it feels unfamiliar. Another revealing sign is how he lets you influence his emotional state. Your mood affects him. Your happiness lifts him. Your disappointment bothers him. That emotional responsiveness means you matter beyond convenience. Your feelings have weight in his world now. He may not say he's in love because admitting that means acknowledging emotional dependence, and that can be scary. But his behavior will expose him. He opens up. He trusts. He stays present. He chooses connection over avoidance. Those are not habits. Those are signs of emotional attachment forming. When a man gives you emotional safety, he's already made a decision with his heart, even if his mind hasn't caught up yet. Love doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers through trust, vulnerability, and the quiet comfort of being seen and accepted exactly as you are. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real, because too many people get distracted by sweet words and miss the truth standing right in front of them. Compliments sound good. Compliments feel good. Anybody can talk nice when it's convenient. But consistency, now that's something different. Consistency is what exposes a man who has fallen in love before he even realizes it himself. You see, when a man is not emotionally invested, his energy comes in waves. One day he's all in, the next day he's gone. One week he's calling you nonstop, the next week you're wondering if your phone still works. That's not confusion, that's lack of commitment. But when love starts entering his heart, his behavior settles. He becomes steady. He becomes reliable. And that kind of steadiness doesn't come from attraction, it comes from attachment. A man who is falling in love doesn't just show up when things are easy. He shows up when he's tired. He shows up when life is messy. He shows up when he doesn't have much to give but still gives something. That's consistency. And consistency takes effort, discipline, and intention. Men do not maintain effort where their heart is not involved. Watch how he communicates. Not how sweet his words are, but how dependable his presence is. Does he call when he says he will? Does he follow through on plans? Does he check in without being reminded? Compliments don't require responsibility. Consistency does. When a man is consistent, he's silently saying, "You matter enough for me to keep showing up." Another thing people miss is that consistency shows emotional maturity. A man who is falling in love starts understanding that his actions affect your sense of security. He doesn't disappear without explanation. He doesn't leave you guessing on purpose. He understands that peace is built through reliability. That awareness only develops when someone truly cares. You'll also notice that consistency shows up in how he treats you over time. Not just when he wants something, not just when he's in a good mood, but in ordinary moments, in boring days, in stressful weeks. Love doesn't live in excitement alone. Love lives in routine, and a man who stays kind, attentive, and respectful through routine is revealing something deep. Here's the part that shocks people. Consistency is uncomfortable for a man who isn't serious. It requires him to be accountable. It requires him to manage his time, his words, and his behavior. So when a man willingly chooses consistency, it means he's already emotionally invested more than he planned to be. Another powerful sign is that his consistency doesn't feel forced. He's not keeping score. He's not saying, "Look what I did." He just does it. He shows up because it feels natural now. That's when you know love is operating quietly in the background. You'll also see it in how he handles distance. A consistent man doesn't punish you with silence. He doesn't withdraw affection to gain control. He understands that connection grows through steady effort, not emotional games. That level of emotional awareness doesn't come from casual interest. And let me say this clearly. Compliments can be fake. Promises can be empty. But consistency exposes the truth every single time. You can't fake effort for long. You can't pretend to care consistently. Eventually, the heart tells on itself. When a man keeps choosing you, keeps showing up, keeps investing without being asked, he's already crossed an emotional line. He may not say he's in love. He may not even realize it yet. But his consistency is proof that his heart has already made a decision his mind hasn't fully accepted. So if you're watching a man be steady, present, and reliable without grand speeches, understand this. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it shows up quietly, doing the same right thing over and over again without needing applause. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that most people overlook when it comes to men and love. A man doesn't always say he's in love, but when love starts settling into his heart, it shows up as protection and pride. And I'm not talking about control, jealousy, or insecurity. I'm talking about a deep, quiet instinct to guard what matters to him and to stand tall about it without making a show. When a man is not emotionally invested, he stays detached. What happens to you is your business. How people treat you doesn't concern him. Your problems are yours to solve. But when love starts creeping in, that distance disappears. He becomes aware of your environment, your struggles, your stress, and even the energy around you. Not because he wants to manage your life, but because you're well. Being now affects his peace. You'll notice it in small moments first. He asks if you got home safe. He checks in when he knows you've had a long day. He pays attention to situations where you might feel uncomfortable. That's not politeness. That's protection beginning to surface. Men are wired to protect what they value, and they don't do it consciously at first. It just happens. Another powerful sign is how he reacts when someone disrespects you. A man who doesn't care emotionally will brush it off or stay silent. But a man falling in love feels it personally. He doesn't like seeing you hurt, dismissed, or talked down to. Even if he doesn't confront the situation directly, you can feel the shift in him. His energy changes. His tone changes. Because now it's not just about you. It feels like it's about him too. Protection also shows up emotionally. He becomes mindful of how his actions affect you. He doesn't want to be the source of your pain. He thinks twice before saying things that might hurt you. He becomes careful with your feelings, not because he's afraid, but because he values you. Men don't guard emotions they don't care about. Then there's pride. This is where love really starts to reveal itself. A man who is falling in love feels proud to have you in his life, not in a loud, boastful way, but in a grounded, confident way. He speaks positively about you when you're not around. He respects you in front of others. He doesn't hide you. He doesn't downplay your importance. Pride means he sees you as an extension of his life, not a secret part of it. Watch how he includes you in his world. When a man feels pride in a woman, he wants alignment. He wants you to feel safe in his space. He wants the people around him to respect you. He becomes aware that how he treats you reflects on him. That awareness doesn't come from casual interest. That comes from emotional attachment. Another sign of pride is how he wants to show up better. Love pushes a man to raise his standards for himself. He wants to be reliable. He wants to be respected. He wants to be someone you can count on. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence makes him want to be worthy. That inner shift is powerful, and it's often silent. Protection and pride also show up in how he defends your name when you're not there. He doesn't entertain disrespectful conversations about you. He shuts down negativity. He corrects misunderstandings. Men don't protect reputations they don't care about. If he's guarding your image, he's guarding his heart too. You'll also notice that he feels responsible in a deeper way. Not ownership, but responsibility. If you're stressed, he wants to help. If you're overwhelmed, he wants to ease the weight. He may not always know how, but the desire is there. That desire to carry some of the load is love revealing itself. What shocks most people is that a man can be doing all of this and still say, I don't know what this is. That's because men often recognize love after it's already taken root. Their instincts move first. Their heart follows. Their words come last. So when you see protection without control and pride without ego, understand what you're witnessing. That man is emotionally invested. He's attached. He's already crossed the line from interest to love, even if he hasn't said it out loud yet. Because men don't guard, value, and stand tall about something that doesn't mean everything to them. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about the sign that scares a man the most. The one he tries to ignore, the one that shocks him when he finally realizes what's happening. That sign is fear of loss, not jealousy, not control. Fear of losing what has quietly become important to him. This is where love exposes itself in the clearest way. You see, a man who is not emotionally attached is fearless. If you leave, you leave. If things end, they end. He shrugs, moves on, and fills the space with something else. But when a man starts falling in love, the idea of losing you begins to disturb his peace. He may not say it out loud, but it shows up in his behavior. The thought of life without you doesn't feel neutral anymore. It feels uncomfortable. Fear of loss shows up first as awareness. He notices when you pull back. He feels it when your energy changes. He senses distance even when nothing has been said. That awareness alone is powerful because men don't usually track emotional shifts unless they're invested. When your presence starts affecting his emotional state, love is already involved. You'll see it in how he reacts to the possibility of you walking away. He doesn't stay careless. He doesn't stay indifferent. He starts asking questions. He wants clarity. He wants reassurance, even if he doesn't know how to ask for it properly. A man who doesn't care never seeks reassurance. A man who fears loss does. Another way fear of loss appears is through effort increasing at unexpected moments. When he senses distance, he leans in instead of pulling away. He checks in more. He becomes more attentive. He tries to reconnect. That's not manipulation. That's attachment responding to threat. Love fights to stay alive. Fear of loss also reveals itself when he starts protecting the bond. He becomes more careful with his words. He avoids unnecessary conflict. He chooses peace over being right. Not because he's weak, but because losing you now feels like losing something valuable. Ego steps back when the heart is at risk. You'll notice that he starts imagining consequences. Before, his actions were impulsive. Now, he thinks, how will this affect us? That shift is massive. Men don't consider consequences tied to people they don't see as permanent. Fear of loss creates responsibility. Another sign is emotional vulnerability surfacing at strange times. He may admit he doesn't want to mess things up. He may express concern about disappointing you. He may reveal insecurity he never showed before. Fear of loss softens a man, and that softness is dangerous for someone who thought he had everything under control. You'll also see it when he becomes uncomfortable with the idea of replacement. The thought of someone else stepping into his place doesn't sit right with him. Not in a possessive way, but in a deeply personal way. It bothers him because he now sees himself connected to you. That connection feels exclusive, even if he hasn't defined it yet. Fear of loss can even show up as growth. He starts correcting behaviors he once defended. He works on things he once ignored. Not because you forced him to, but because he doesn't want to be the reason you leave. Love motivates change faster than fear ever could. What shocks men is that fear of loss doesn't feel dramatic. It feels quiet. It feels like discomfort, like something important slipping through fingers. And by the time he recognizes it, the truth is already there. He cares deeply. A man may not say, I love you, when fear of loss shows up, but his actions will speak loudly. He stays, he tries, he protects the connection. He chooses you again and again, because once a man fears losing you, he has already admitted something to himself without words. His heart has decided, even if his mouth hasn't caught up yet.